Hello, this is Stoked at d2jsp.org, creating a beginner overview video on a simple yet highly addictive hack and slash RPG style flash game called Ladder Slasher. First, let's go to the site that houses Ladder Slasher, d2jsp.org. From the main page, well, you will need an account to play this game. I'm not going to go over how to create an account. I'm assuming you have one. That being the case, let's go to the link in the top right-hand corner that says Play Ladder Slasher. All right, from the LS main page, you're going to see a handful of guides on the left-hand side. Paul Talberg and Jaguar, he is the coder of this game and does provide continual updates to Ladder Slasher. Sometimes he gets these updates out prior to updating the guides, so keep in mind some of these guides may be outdated. That being the case, well, let's start with weapons. I do highly suggest reading all these guides over here on the left-hand side. It does provide all the basics, but something that's extremely important that you can't get away with not reading are the weapons. There's 10 different weapons that you can use, and the bottom 5 are dubbed as heavies, starting with longsword down to polearm. You'll notice the base tier damage is half as much as the heavies, yet it evens out, all of them do. The weapon speed on, say, a longsword, a heavy is 2 seconds compared to 1 second. So every 2 seconds you're going to do a hit on a mobster, and this one is going to be every second. Something else to consider is the the defense is only calculated once with a heavy, so you do have that advantage. But the charging for your abilities, which we're going to go over a little later, happens twice as slow, so it's a trade-off. The reason I want you to be here more so than anything is to understand the strength-dexterity ratio. Your weapon type is going to determine how you stat your character and pretty much what gear you buy. So if you went clubs, basically you would need 90% of your stats for optimal performance to be strength, while 10% are dex. I'm going to go over some guides to review, but one of them is going to recommend to play a fighter. Now, a fighter has 50 strength, 40 dex when they start off, as you can see here. Now, back to the weapons. Realize if you did use the club, which a fighter can use, you're already starting off with 40 dex. Now, the stats that it's cumulative. It's everything that you stat as well as your gear combined. So since you already have 40, you're never going to reach that ratio of a 90-10. That being the case, you're going to stat entirely strength, and you're going to look for strength gear, mainly the charms. Starting off, I do recommend getting your armor as an enhanced effect so you can be a decent tank. All right, let's first let's go to messages, click manage address book, and at the bottom I want you to type in my username, STOK3D, Stoked. Click add user to address book, and once you do that, your name is going to populate, my name is going to populate over here. Click my name and it's going to take you to my profile. I'm taking to my profile because I do house a nice collection of useful information for Ladder Slasher. Let's look at the first couple guides I created. With this one, it goes over some abilities. You can see all this in game, but here, it's nice and easy to understand. I do want to point out at the bottom, there's 5 feeder classes, and if you start off as the fighter, let's say, and you stat Power Strike, then that first ability point that you put in is going to show 20 on it. And that 20 is you have a 20% chance for every action you do on a mob to generate, build up your ability of Power Strike. So once it goes to a certain level, you can click it and use that ability. If you did happen to pass an MQ, a Master Quest, because what you do in this game is basically climb 1 to 71. A hidden, quest populates at level 71, you'll see a new icon in town. You do that. If you do pass this quest, then you unlock the next class. If you fail, you start off back at level 1. You do keep all your gear, and you climb again. You do have the advantage of having an extra stat point, maximum to 20. You start off with 10. And once you pass the first class, every 2 climbs that you do, every 2 MQs gives you a stat point. The third class, every 3 MQs gives you a stat point, and so on. It caps at 20. And reading this chart below, the plus class, if you want to try an ability of, say, I don't know, a headhunter, because they've got some really nice melee abilities. That first point you put in will only give you a 6% chance to charge your ability. So keep that in mind. Why did I go to level 200? For dueling. Some people want to get, as high as you can, so you have more ability points to play with, higher, life or mana or whatnot. So this is a good way to help you plan out where you can be with, what amount of points. All right, the next chart below details what items can, be used by what class. It's nice and easy to understand. You could see it in the other guide, but this kind of sticks out right in your face. The club obviously can be used by 2 classes, and the sword, if you look below, can be used by 4. Well, if you're wanting to buy a sword, you're going to notice, swords are a lot more expensive than clubs. Here's the reason why. All right, the next chart, created by Ragnaroks. This is a great chart that details the maximum, potential that you can get for a magical stat on an item. Notice tier 1 through tier 3 all have a level rec of 0. That being the case, when you first start off, you do want to get tier 3 items. I made the mistake when I first started out to buy tier 1s, and I wasn't lucky enough to have a video. All right, using that tier 3 as an example, enhanced effect, which you 100% need for your damage item, whether it's a charm or a weapon, needs to be enhanced effect. Every click that you do, you have a chance of getting a proficiency point. Now with these proficiency points, once you reach a level, say after 1,000 actions, you hit level 1, that'll add 1 enhanced effect to any weapon that you use. That being the case, Paul has it so you can go all the way up to 20 EE, enhanced effect EE, over your cap. So if you have a 20 prof and a perfect charm, you can have an 80 EE item. If you have a 25 prof and a perfect 60 EE item, guess what? It's still 80. It's capped at 20 over. Speaking of caps over, back when this game was first started, Paul had it so items were able to spawn up to level 45 stats. So you could get basically a tier 1 item with, say, 60 strength. It's quite nice. They're rare, they're extremely expensive, and, well, they're also highly sought after. That being the case, there are some stats like max life per kill, LPK, MPK, life per attack, and mana per attack. These are capped at 20, at 1 tier over what it is. So if you see a 175 LPK charm, realize it's garbage. It might look nice, but it really is pretty much useless now with the caps. So this is a good chart to understand what's good, what's not, what you should be looking for. This is something with glyphing. It's pretty much easy to understand if you read below. I'm not going to detail this because it's not necessary in a beginner video. Below is another chart which is very useful. If you find, say, a level 10 item and you get it with 40 EE, so you want to see how that compares to, say, a level 20. Is it worth buying this? Does it really do more damage? Well, a 40 EE is equivalent to a level 20 with no stats, what we call white. You're going to find items that drop that have no stats. These are nice to have because you find these places inside catacombs, the places that you fight the monsters and you climb your levels. that you can drop them in, a monster spawns, you kill it, and that item that you had, a white with no stats on it, has the possibility to generate, any amount of stats on it. So the higher level stuff people really like to keep. And it drives also what they call side items. This is an important chart to understand, especially when you get up to the higher levels. It's harder to find items. They get a lot more expensive. So if you find that 80 EE level 45, you might be able to get away with just having that 80 EE level 45. And if you can't find anything better than this, guess what? Don't buy it. All right, again, another skilling chart that I created. Don't really need to go over that right now. What I do want to mention are these first 5 links. Let's go to the Ellis toolbox. This is created by Kick-Ass Joe, who did change his name. And when we go here, it's got all kinds of great links that he has. Soft course best list, but the one in particular that I want you to realize is this ratio calculator. The swords in particular, some people aren't the best with ratios and may find it difficult on understanding where to stat. So this may come in handy. Let's say you're a fighter, which starts with 50 strength, 40 dex. And your weapon has enhanced effect, doesn't have any stats. Your armor, you also bought an enhanced effect because you want to be a tank. And your charm, you were lucky enough to find a 10 strength. So when you start off, you get to allocate 10 unused stat points. And the weapon is a sword. If I did club, it's obviously going to be all strength. But let's see what happens with a sword. Where should we stat? Well, it says to reach the optimal 75-25 ratio, or at least attempt to, your first 10 points should go into strength. However, if you read the guide below, I'm going to say to put them in vitality so you can get more life, but this is going to give you a general direction if you want to reach those ratios. It's pretty nice. Let's say you're level 55. This is where it really comes in handy. So you start off with the 10 stats. You've got 54 levels to get there. So you put in 64 unused stats. If you want to reach this ratio, basically it says 63 are going to go into strength, 1 in the dex. So pretty much all strength. All right, let's digress. Let's get off of this. I do want you to understand the guides. It's really important. Let's go back to the main page.